Welcome to Crimson Guitars, welcome to my home studio, welcome to Luthiers Question Time episode, I don't know, I wrote this about 5 minutes ago and I've really lost it. 15 or so, I would say. We're at my home, we can hear my neighbour who seems to play with chainsaws for fun and on the regular. I don't know what he's cutting anymore, but it is what it is. I have also fixed the issue we had with the microphones last week where it was scraping on my zip and I've got one above my head out of shot. So there should be a change in the audio. Let me know in the live chat how this is all working out for you. It's a little bit more SC than last time. Anyhow, welcome. We have got a plethora of fantastic people in here. Woodstyle Shinobi says, okay, Ben, I got my like out of the way early. Shameless plug. Everybody check out my channel. We have 2 builds for the Great Guitar Builder 21. I know, and it's going to be cool. SC Guitars is in as moderator. Crumpet's in. He says, hi, chat. Ed Billy BN Blue says, Ben, neck pocket angle for the set neck flat top. Need help. Neck pocket angles. Okay, so there are many different ways to do it. In all seriousness, I wouldn't, if you've got a flat top already, I wouldn't necessarily bother with routing the angle into the neck pocket. I would carve it into the neck itself, to be honest. I can't tell you how distracting it is having the noise going on in the background. My neighbour and his chainsaw. What can you do? I should probably tell him that this is when I do live streams. He's a cool dude and would, listen. Okay, now that being said, if you are routing your neck pocket and you want it at an angle and you do not have, and the guitar is a flat-topped instrument, you can very, very easily take a standard template, i.e. one of the fantastic templates from Crimson Guitars. I'll get my plugs in early as well. For example, for a standard Les Paul type instrument, the angle that you want it to be at coincides with your neck template being where it needs to be, and at the bridge line, a pencil. So essentially, put your template flat, put a pencil at the bridge, put your template down on the pencil, and touching at the head of at the closest end to the headstock of the guitar body. How would I describe that? Anyhow, do that, and you would be at roughly the right angle, basically. Now, you're probably talking a relatively smaller angle, depends on the bridge you've chosen, but yeah, there we go. Alrighty, now, Darko Milik says, happy Easter holidays to all. I hope everyone is doing well. Wasn't that last week? Last month? I've lost track of everything. Okay, so Ed Billy BN Blue says, limited cool tools and talent, but plenty of frustration. Can I just route the bottom level and then angle the neck base? Yes. Well, there we go. So he already answered it before I even got to talking. SC Guitars says, podcasts pending. We are, Stephen is actually SC Guitars and he is editing the best questions, or at least the most well enunciated questions, into a shorter format as a podcast that people can listen to. We've got a couple of episodes that are in progress, and once it's all up, we'll be populating the directories, and the podcast, which will also be called Luthiers Question Time, will be going live. So, woohoo! It's all good. It is all good. Now, Paul23Fit says, Biltong! Are you finding it more and more difficult to come up with new ideas for builds, or are there still lots of things you know you want to build but haven't gotten around to yet? First of all, Biltong. Yes, I love Biltong, and if you have a good supply, tell me about it or send me some. Okay, now that being said, 2 years ago, I would have said yes, absolutely. A guitar is a guitar, and I have built so many instruments that I was honestly getting bored with guitar building. Shock horror. I know. And but that was as much a function of my own state of mind at that point as anything else. And I have spread my inspirations wide, and you hear me talking about this quite a lot nowadays. I will watch other YouTube videos from people in crafts totally disparate and far removed from guitar building, and as a result of doing that, I find other things to inspire me. With shred, for example, I'm doing textural patterns that I would never have thought of without looking at watches and horology and all of that. Just never would have occurred to me. And as everything builds and changes and grows, that is the same. So from an aesthetic point of view, yes, I am looking at 15th century armor and shotguns and watches and ceramics, etc., to find different aesthetics that I like the look of. But that's only part of it. The other thing is how the world is changing. So for example, I've just recorded yesterday a Luthiers Question Time special, where I was answering questions from a university student who was doing something for an essay on sustainability in guitar building, or sustainability in general. And we filmed it, recorded the whole thing, and that's going to be going live in a couple of days. But a lot of the things that I'm thinking about now to do with guitar design and the guitar industry in general is to do with sustainability. And I will come up with new designs because that's now a parameter that is more important to me than it was 10 years ago. And basically, I don't think I will ever get bored. On top of that, there are a myriad different instruments that I haven't actually made versions of or tried to improve in any way, shape or form. And with those, I'll get there. I will get there. This is a relatively small niche in the world, but there's a lot going on in it. So, cool. Apparently I need to flip the screen again. I don't know. You see, this is the thing. I'll have a play. Okay, so the main thing that I mentioned in the title of this is, what do we do about all of the epoxy? And I really have an issue. I have an issue with epoxy. We're seeing so much of it in not only guitars, in tables and chopping boards and all of this sort of stuff. And I don't know if I know it's not a single use thing. I absolutely understand that. But have I done it? I think I've done it. I think I've fixed the issue. Okay, so yeah, it's not a single-use thing, but we are still essentially using plastic in larger and greater and much bigger quantities. It's not contributing to microplastics. It's not contributing to landfill, etc. We're building instruments or big tables that are going to be in people's houses and possession and making music. Tables that make music for many, many years. But I still have a check, a sort of moral query as to whether I should even be worried about that. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. What do you guys think in the live chat, in the comments below? What do you think about the prevalence of resin and epoxy resins and things in this day and age? I know there are thousands of videos out there, and they are fun to watch. or at least were fun to watch. I'm going to say they are. I mean, we've got a big table that we have planned that we want, and we're going to be using a lot of resin to make it. And I don't know. What do you think? Anyhow, that's going to be something that I'm interested to read your comments on, and we'll go from there. Bedroom programmer says epoxy equals plastic equals bad. So yes, and that's the thing. Very simplistically. Nobody complains about the 2-pack polyurethane lacquer or varnish, whatever you want to call it, that we use on millions of guitars a year. And it's not in the same quantities, but it's the same stuff, basically, isn't it? So at what point do we call it a day and say, hey, let's not? Okay, here's another question. This is from Night's Dew. He says, hi Ben, I was going to use piezo crystal saddles on my guitar build, but it adds 210 euros to the cost, and I'm installing Fishman Fluence pickups, which have an amazing clean sound. So is there a point? It honestly depends on your budget, and it depends on what you want to get. I do agree that with Fluence pickups, there is less of a point because they are so... I mean, it's a closer sound than you would get from normal humbuckers. Absolutely, or normal pickups in general. That being said, my absolute favourite sound out of a guitar is a good piezo bridge mixed with a good, relatively high output pickup. A humbucker in particular. That sound just totally does it for me. But the Fluence pickups do come close. So there we go. Ben Timer says, do you ever use pound shop epoxy or super glue? Not super glue because stuff. For example, I have bought pound shop super glue before, and you're talking about 2 grams of miserable stuff that's always too thin. We have obviously a lot of Starbond, and this is a glue that I use absolutely constantly. My favorite is the medium viscosity for guitar building, and I use that a lot. And a couple of grams isn't going to do it. I use 25 or 50 gram bottles all the time, and have done for many years. And it's that viscosity that is the thing. I don't think I've ever. Okay, let me rephrase that. I don't think I've ever seen epoxy in a pound shop. But then again, I actually can't remember the last time I went into a pound shop. So, hell, I can almost not quite remember the last time I went into a shop at this stage of life. Okay, Barry Reed says, I'm out of hospital now. Ricky, my friend, resting up, pick kids away. Da, 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 da. I'm looking forward to starting my guitar. And ban epoxy. Yeah, Barry, I'm glad you're getting back on your feet now, and the build will commence. Dennis Osmondson says, was recommended something today and thought it sounded weird, and I'm wondering if you tried it. It is to use egg whites as grain filler. You sand with egg whites and then it mixes with the sanding dust. Yes, that is something that I have heard about, but never attempted myself. That being said, I now have chickens, and they are, just between the 2 of them, actually producing more eggs than we currently deal with anyway. Okay, so here is a question from Tutum Carman. It says, Ben, for when you get going, i.e. this was a little bit later, we've noticed that you quite like tools. You sure? So I was wondering if you've given any of them names. Only one of my very, very earliest tools in a lot of the videos was a Bradall, and I ended up calling her Jessica. And that Bradall is now in my leather toolbox up at the house, and will be kept dear and close. But other than that, no, not really. I'm not the sort of person that names my tools or my cars or things like that. I think it is a function of the fact that I struggle to remember the names of people. let alone tools. Even people who I am close to and know fairly well. It generally takes... Well, so here's a discussion I had today. My accountant is retiring. And she told me that I was retiring. That she was retiring, sorry. She didn't tell me I was retiring. And I am very glad to say, said, oh, and by the way, I've got a friend who is starting up, and she's going to be, taking on a lot of my clients. If you're interested, I will introduce you. And I said, yes, please. And she said, oh, and by the way, this is going to be good for you, Ben. She has the same first name as me. And I'm like, yeah, celebrate. Okie dokie. Worldwide Ghost says, hi, everyone. Bedroom Programmer says, oil is just very nice haptically. Okay. We've got a bunch of people just popping in to say hi. Okay, Indica John says, hi Ben, is it okay to put your wipe-on lacquer over an oil finish? I'm not happy with the way the oil finish has turned out. Okay, other people have done the test. I still haven't myself. Not in any meaningful way. I have put a few pieces together and it looked okay. Yes, it should be okay. If the reason that you are not happy with the oil finish is that it's still tacky or it's built up in strange ways, you're going to have to rub it down to a certain extent before you apply the wipe-on lacquer. But it also depends on the oil. I've only tested it with the guitar finishing oil, as has one of the other viewers in this stream, I think. So it should be okay, but it very much depends on when the oil was applied and what the substrate is. You might have to rub it down a little bit. You won't have to necessarily remove all of it, but yeah, be careful. Okie dokie. Ian Willie says, my wife and daughter took up making stuff with resin during the first lockdown. Nothing like guitars, but some pretty cool things. I enjoy watching your vids. No skills, but I find it therapeutic. I have a few skills. Watch enough makers on YouTube, and whether you think you have no skills or not, at some point you are going to start wanting to make things, and hopefully you will get into it. This is the thing. So, I mean, the resin pendants, some of those look amazing. I've seen people make plectrums out of half resin, half wood that also looked incredible. A former student did that. I think it's great. Now, Rab Knox says, I had a house fire years ago, mate, and nearly lost the wife and kids. Lost everything else, but the family survived. Bloody hellfire. I'm not entirely sure who you are replying to, but yeah. This is one of the things. The live stream, live chat now is as much into chat between people as it is questions, and yeah, it is all fun and games. So, Redhead17, plastic is a problem when it is dumped without recycling. Build something that lasts and it won't impact the environment for many, many years, if at all. And that's the only reason why we still do it. Gus Sterneman says, lunchtime here in Texas. I've got to run, feed my kids. Needy little creatures. Be back soon. Yes, I call them childebeests for exactly that purpose. They're just constantly eating. Especially the 6-year-old. I don't understand. Anyway. Wolford Guitar says, I think plastic can be a great tool, and as a species we need to be better custodians of the planet. This is the problem. We're half and half. Charles Piper says, Ben, scrapple. What is scrapple? Well, it is meat, sort of, apparently. Personally, I think epoxy is overdone. I enjoy seeing wood grain, so stains and lacquer or oil it is for me. Or burn it. I like it. Okay, we have our first super chat of the day. This is from Richu. Hey, dude. He says, would you rather... Another would you rather. I like these. I actually find myself looking forward to what you're going to say now. Would you rather A, resurrect any guitar player from history as a permanent housemate, and who, or B, never experience the taste of coffee again? Well, I mean, guitarists let me think about this one again. You've made me think now. Guitarists are generally pretty awesome people, but I mean, that sounds to me like I would be stuck with having some person in my house for the rest of my life who I've never met before that time. I mean, I'm thinking, um, I think it would be really, really interesting to bring in somebody like, yeah, one of the old sort of blind blues guitarists from the 20s or something like that. I think that could be quite cool. Just for no other reason than to, or for among other reasons, to see how they would react to what the world is like now, in comparison to racism and opportunities. And I mean, the world still sucks to a certain extent, but in comparison to what it was back then, we've taken leaps and bounds. I think as a social experiment, I would have to do that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Nobody's names are coming to mind. You know me and names, but that's what I'm thinking. And quite frankly, never experiencing the taste of coffee again. That would be difficult. That really would be difficult. Even if so I am now at 6 o'clock in the evening, just getting over a debilitating headache. It nearly had me on my ass this afternoon, because while I had my first cup of coffee in the morning, I had a couple of meetings and bits and pieces I needed to do, and it was 2 o'clock in the afternoon before I had my second cup, and the caffeine withdrawal crunched my brain. So even if I can't taste the coffee, I would 100% be drinking caffeine in some way, shape, or form. Ben Timon says, we need to bring back French polishing on guitars. Back to the old methods. They are the most environmentally friendly. Thoughts? I think that shellac, I mean, this looks like Coca-Cola because, hey, it's in a Diet Coke bottle. But yeah, shellac. A good quality shellac is a thing of beauty. It is naturally obtained. I'm not entirely sure how, if every finish was based on lac beetles, I'm fairly sure that they would be extinct very rapidly. That being said, yeah, I think French polish, which is shellac, would be fantastic. The issue is how long it takes to do. It's not an easy thing, and I would love to actually be taught how to do it properly by somebody one day. I think that would be great fun. I like stopping for a second. Ray says superglue sucks as much as epoxy. It's not environmentally friendly when it comes to ridding us of the stuff. This is the problem. So I was having this conversation the other day with Baden Aldridge, who's the university student. He studies at BIM in London, and the main thing that people think about with regards to being environmentally friendly or not in guitar building is the wood. And frankly, most woods are entirely sustainable. In fact, most woods that we would use are either farmed or are very, very easy to obtain and not endangered. There are some that are, obviously. But we use a lot of glue, a lot of lacquer. Even the oils have drying agents in them, and there's a lot to think about. So, yeah, I don't know. It's just it's something to bear in mind, and yeah, I don't think that we have superglue. I don't think we have an alternative to superglue. I love it. I use it a lot, and there isn't something else that we can use. We're not all going to go back to using hide glue and fish glue. It has its uses for sure, but there are properties of it that are not ideal for a lot of what we do. So I'm going to get back down to the questions and see what we've got. Hendrix would definitely be doing drugs. Yep. Okay, Peach Melba 1000 says, positive couple on YouTube probably go through several tons of epoxy per year. Beautiful furniture, that's subjective. But it's heavy, and frankly the look of it will likely go out of style. Okay, the reason I said that's subjective is because a lot of the stuff that I've seen them do involved several metric tons of flowers as well, of fake flowers, that no thank you. I don't like the look of it all. Okay, but you know, that's me, and a lot of you don't necessarily like the look of the guitars that I make either, so it's all fine. Phil Plowman says, crunchy chicken burger. Hey Ben, have you ever considered using a vintage tool as a permanent part of a guitar? Like, not just use it to build it, but as an actual part of the instrument. Kind regards, Phil. No, I have not. I did build some cigar box guitars, and I don't think I used a tool. I used keys, I used threaded bar and bits and pieces like that. Now, that being said, I have a lot of scrap at the tool shop. We buy tool shop, vintagetoolshop.com. There's a 10% sale going on right now until the 14th of May, I think. I should probably tell you. You're some of the first people to know. So yeah, check it out. Vintagetoolshop.com. Okay. We buy a lot of tools. We buy a hell of a lot of tools. In the 4 years that the shop has been open, we have listed for sale nearly 40,000 tools. Okay. But that 40,000 tools, inevitably another 40,000 bits of random metal came in, for example. And of course we recycle a lot of, well, all of the metal gets recycled and goes to be weighed in, etc, etc, etc. So I would never take a tool that could be used as a tool. I never would. Now, I don't care what it is. If it has function still in it, then it deserves to be a tool. It doesn't deserve to be made into anything else. Now, that's just the way I feel about it. Yeah, I've got a lot of scrap that we could do some stuff. I don't know how to weld yet. Anyway, Thomas Gillis has come in with a $10 super chat. Thanks, Thomas. He says, can I use an acoustic style bridge with string through ferrules where a tailpiece might be on a 4-string electric tenor baritone uke? What might other ideal bridge options be if not? Okay, there we go. The word I glossed over in my brain was electric tenor bari ukulele. Yes, you absolutely can. There is absolutely no reason why not. Yeah, so string through ferrules going in from the back, standard acoustic guitar looking, or acoustic ukulele, I suppose, looking bridge on the top, and the strings pop through where you would normally have the strings being wedged in. I think that would look absolutely fine. In fact, it would look pretty cool and confuse people as well, which I like confusing people. E.R. Webster, that's a name that I haven't seen in about 3 hours. Thoughts on alternatives to swamp ash, specifically in the context of deep grain finishes like sandblasted. Okay, so there are some alternatives. My favourite absolutely is European sweet chestnut, because, or just ash, to be honest. I'm not saying that sweet chestnut is ash. I'm saying alternatives are European sweet chestnut or standard ash. The reason to go swamp ash is the weight, but swamp ash is becoming less and less readily available. It is the ash borer beetle is devastating it, and I don't think that there is very much that we're going to be able to do to stop that. So, you know, the ash trees are on their way out. and this is soul destroying. Really, it's incredible. So, well, that is the option for me. If you want something that is white and looks like ash, chestnut, European sweet chestnut in particular, has that look and that open grain pattern that can then be sandblasted or hit with a wire brush in order to get that kind of effect. Now, many other woods will also work similarly depending on how it's cut, what the grain orientation is, slab sawn, rift sawn, etc., etc. If you aren't worried about the colour, for example, actually, you can bleach, just with standard household bleach, you can bleach wenge, which has a fantastically interesting hard and soft grain pattern. So, yeah, slab sawn wenge bleached and then painted would be similar, although about 15 times heavier. Let us move on. Indica John says guitarists are full of their own self-importance. Yeah. So, for example, if I wasn't, at least when I started doing the YouTube videos, full of my own self-importance, then none of this would be happening right now. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. Peter234 says, are your courses residential? We do not put people up. We don't have accommodation ourselves. We, however, do have a network of places where we will be able to, who will put you in touch with, and we organise at one remove. I've got a lady who doesn't actually work for us, but works with us in placing students in accommodation, everywhere from the most basic of bed sits to holiday cottages or hotels, so yes, at the moment we don't have the property to put you up ourselves, and that price is not included in the course, but we will find you a place. Now, it is a medium-term goal of mine to find a house or maybe even a hotel or something and buy it for students, because I cannot think of anything cooler than having a small hotel, for example, that is entirely guitar themed. Guitars on the walls, amps, a gig venue, cool posters of Hendrix and Clapton, etc., etc., and the whole. I mean, not only students would want to go there, but I personally think, well, I would want to go there, and that is something that is quite dear to my heart, and I would love to do it. So there we go. Now, Borgonian Evolution says, why would you bring back a guitarist and torture them in that way, mate? I'm assuming you're saying that it would be torture to live with me in my house for the rest of my life. I think you're right, absolutely. Dr. Milik says, on the topic of plastic, I was thinking about HDPE swirly colourful pickup rings and knobs and stuff. Ben, have you ever tried playing with HDPE? No, I haven't. So you're talking about taking milk bottles, etc., recycling them and squishing them into slabs from which you then... I wonder if you could mould it. I don't know. Either machine or mould HDPE into pickup rings and scratch plates and things. I think that would be absolutely valid and a good use of a resource that we should utilize, really. Again, the problem is it could be done on a commercial level with macerators and machines like that take the raw used materials. It comes down to finance. It comes down to how much it costs to make rather than how much the raw plastic would cost from from the petroleum industry, I suppose. And unfortunately, most people will choose the cheaper option. So, for example, ebony. I have got the option to buy rich light or rock light, or I've got the option to buy ebony. Now, ebony itself is vastly cheaper, and on top of that, I'm getting it from an environmentally friendly source where they have their own ebony mill, etc., etc. It's the same company that, well, Taylor Guitars owns half of it, and Medinta is the other half, and I buy my ebony from Medinta. I like the idea to a certain extent, and again, I talk about this in the video that's coming through. I like the idea of rich light, but I question the manufacturing of turning paper, stroke other woods with all the glues involved, etc., and the stains into an ebony thing. Anyway, there's a couple of questions I need to get to. We have one from Guranga32, sent £5. He says, "Hi Ben, I love the channel. I'm starting my second build soon, thinking a Mediterranean theme. Would olive wood make a good fretboard material? Thanks, Reese. Olive wood would make a stunning fretboard material, as long as you've got a piece big enough. It is very hard, very pretty, obviously, everybody knows that. And yeah, if you can get it big enough, which you can, I would say go for it, 100%. Bring it on." Aidan Keenan has sent £5 and says, "I've got an older body. I want to finish by hand. How many coats of stain and oil? What else? Question mark. Also, link a Discord server to your Patreon. I'd sign up." So, yes, there is going to be a Discord server just for Crimson in general, and actually one for Patreon as well. I think should be easy enough to do. We are also going to be launching YouTube memberships at some point soon to run alongside Patreon, so it'll have the same perks. Essentially, a lot of people cannot be bothered to click onto a third party, so it's something we're going to do. Now, I've missed a question. It is zipped off my screen. Dean Spencer says, "What do you reckon about Ken Parker's..." No, I didn't. Please forgive me, Aidan. I answered the last half of your question. I didn't get to the first bit. "I've got an older body and I want to finish it by hand. How many coats of stain and oil?" So stain is just a single coat, or at least until you get the colour you want. For example, if you're doing a double finish, you want black, which you then sand down, and then red, and the black makes the grain pop. Such grain as it is with older, I suppose. And then you put that over and rub it down a little bit, and then you put your oil. Now, the oil will lift some of the stain. It will make it lighter. Bear that in mind. But when it comes to how many coats of oil, assuming you're using Crimson Guitars finishing oil, it could be as few as 2 or 3 if you just want the finish as it is, which is relatively matte. If you want to try and build up a semi-gloss, then you can put as many coats on as you want, as long as you make absolutely certain that within 10 or 15 minutes of applying the oil, as it starts to get somewhat tacky, you rub every single little bit of it off until the whole guitar is touch dry. If you leave it on, then it leaves a bit of a mess and it never fully cures. It's not that kind of oil. Okay. Now, I did miss something else. I'm sure I saw a question. Oh, here we go. Ed Billy BN Blues sent $5. He says, "Thanks for your help. By the way, what's your handicap?" I forget names a lot. No, with regards to golf, I don't have a handicap. I do not play enough because every time I want to go out, I realise I'm supposed to be in the workshop. So I'm expecting a big yeah. I'm thinking a Great Guitar Build-Off charity golf tournament. I think that would be phenomenal. Tom, who is the MD of Crimson, is not a bad golfer, although relatively new in it, and we have a bunch of friends. I played my first ever game of golf about a year ago, and immediately pissed off 2 or 3 people that were playing because I was better than them and they'd been playing for years. That being said, I think it's just luck of the draw as much as anything else. But yeah, I think a Great Guitar Build-Off charity golf tournament would be amazing. And, well, sign me up. Drop us an email. We'll organise it. Bum bum. Crimson Towers. Is that what we're going to call the hotel? Frugal Fixer Spike. I don't recognise your name. Welcome to the live stream. He says, question on Great Guitar Build-Off. I cut a body out last year, burnt down my shop. Oh, this is where it came. Okay. Had to stop my builds. Can I still use the body with a kit net to enter the competition? You absolutely can. 100% do it. I suppose the issue is, do you have footage of it being made? Because that's kind of that's the point of it. If there's video footage of you making it, then yeah, bring it on. Fires are one of those things. I don't know. I've got a fire alarm in here. I think I've got the Nest smart fire alarm, which does go off when I get particularly dusty. And it phones my phone if it senses fire going. It's also carbon monoxide sensor. But it phones me and sends me text messages or emails, etc. when there's something going wrong, just so that I could run down here in the Altogether to put out a fire if something. Because if this workshop went down, it's fully insured, probably twice fully insured. But that it's not the monetary value that's the issue. It would hurt, but the issue is it's my stuff. It's me. These are a large part of who I am, and losing it is unconscionable. So yeah, I'm sorry that happened to you, but yes. Okay, Todd Mustachio says, did you spray Shred with the truss rod cover on? No, not at all. I sprayed Nebula with the truss rod cover on. You just made the same mistake I did. Or maybe you were pointing out the mistake that I made last week. Yes, I did. The first undercoat went on with the truss rod cover on, and about 5 minutes after we stopped filming, I was like, oh, you idiot! And it luckily popped out straight away, so it was fine. But yeah, that guitar you're not going to see it until the end of Great Guitar Build-Off. We are taking care and paying attention to giving it the best finish we possibly can, and that does take multiple weeks. So there we go. E.R. Webster says, somebody recommended me elm as a local wood I could consider. Said it worked pretty well. That is a very good point. Elm is not... I'm assuming that this is in regards to an alternative to swamp ash. Elm is relatively lightweight, has very, very similar grain to ash. In fact, a lot prettier in some cases if you get the right piece. And it also does have that same effect where you can scarify the wood and rip out some softer grain and then fill it with stuff to get that sort of the effect of shot blasted ash. So yes, I would go for it. There is unfortunately something called Dutch elm disease, and it means that elm is a lot less prevalent and a lot less common than it was. The area that I live in at the moment apparently used to have hundreds of elm trees, if not thousands and thousands of them, and they're all gone. And yeah, it's really sad. Greg Freeman says, have you tried steel wool and vinegar wood stain? It's similar to burning wood. I've used it on my Les Paul Junior Telly guitar. Les Paul Junior Telly. Cool. Yes, I have tried that. It is... The name for it constantly escapes me. Nope, it's not coming. Alrighty. So yes, no, I have tried that before, and it works on guitars, on wood at least, that has lots of tannins in it. So oak... I think it works very well on elm, but some other woods it just doesn't. I think I tried it on some sycamore. It was just like, nah, no thank you. So in the right place, yeah. New business concept, Crimson Hostel for vagrant would-be luthiers. That's I mean, you know, from a business point of view, that's exactly the plan. Why should I give, if I've got 400 or 500 students coming to Crimson a year, which we would normally have, COVID notwithstanding, why should I let them or encourage them to give their rent money for their stay to other people? I mean, if I can make a small profit off having a hotel that they then all stay in, plus get to make a really cool guitar themed hotel, that would be incredible. So yes, bring it on. Sudar Carvin says, well, I can be your receptionist. Bring it on. Flavio Sobral says, at Ben, I've followed your advice and watched every single video of Ken. Well, what do you think of the finishing process? I haven't actually got that far. You've beaten me to the punch. Great Guitar Build-Off happened, and when I am sitting down and watching YouTube at the moment, it's me watching that. I am going to get there. Stephen Clark got my attention. Says, now that I have your attention, everybody's using food, and he went in an altogether more carnal way. Okay, he says, is there any way to tell just by looking if frets have been installed from the side? Not really. No. Just not that I've noticed, basically. It just is what it is. One side of the fret is sharpened. I've done it multiple times. I have installed frets sideways 3 or 4 times out of interest. In fact, I should do a video. But it doesn't work very well necessarily unless you've got the radius of the fret absolutely perfect. And it's just making life incredibly difficult for whoever follows you as a luthier. As you say, you can't see. There is no way that you can tell if it's been put in sideways or not. And when it comes time to refret the guitar, because it will happen, somebody is going to rip the hell out of the fretboard, and the guitar's going to be majorly devalued, and the repair bill is going to be higher. It's just not. It's not worth doing. I'm sorry. It's just because Leo Fender did it does not mean that it's a good idea. Period. There you go. There's a title for the podcast. Okay. There is a wood called Paulonia, which looks like swamp ash. I've heard of that before, actually. Yes. Talisman Custom Guitar says, I love the hotel idea. I have vague dreams of a home away from home in that shape. Gig venue is a big factor too. It really is. I mean, I don't get to play golf. I don't get to go to gigs very often. I spend much of my life either here or obviously, playing computer games with my kids and stuff. But as they grow up and get fly the nest, hopefully, eventually, I think that that sort of stuff will become once again a huge part of my life, and actually owning a cool venue would be incredible. There was a hotel in Weymouth, which is not too far away from Crimson, that mid-lockdown the freehold on that was coming up, and it wasn't that much, really, in the grand scheme of things. I came so close to sort of trying to take out a couple of loans to do that. Boom, boom. Now, Josu Vasquez says, about pickup rings, I've thought about making a Faraday cage built in the ring with the shape of the pickup cavity. Okay, I understand that. I don't think it's necessary. I really don't think that would be necessary. The pickup itself acts as its own Faraday cage, and most pickup wires, at least the 5-core ones, have a layer of shielding built into the wire. It's overkill, basically. It might help a little bit, but I think overkill. However, very, very, very cool idea. I've never thought of that. Somebody, Harkin Carlson says, hand plane. Can't Crimson source double-sided masking tape? Yes, we can. I'm sure we can. I have still, short of the really expensive stuff, there's nothing that I have ever experienced that has both the strength and the reversibility of the masking tape and super glue trick. If you've got the right kind of masking tape, I don't know what it is, but yeah, it's something. I'll put it back on the list again, actually, because it is something that we could do, I'm sure. Send us links. Send us links to double-sided tapes that you guys like, and we'll see. Send them to stream@crimsonguitars.com. Bedroom Programmer says, I love the hotel idea as long as it has a big sign at the entrance saying you can check out anytime you like. I like it. Very punny. Number Cruncher says, I have a Paulonia body blank. Grain looks promising and it's amazingly light. I've got a dearth of questions here, guys. Ask me questions. Ask away. Jack Evans just says, sorry all. I saw a big number. Frugal Fixer Bike says, and a $120,000 insurance claim. Oh, yeah. I don't have quite that amount of tools or machines in here, but we're getting there. We're getting there. Okay, Ricky's off. We don't have... Here we go. Music Therapy Laz says, hey, I have a slab of solid redwood that is some reclaimed excellent wood. I'm thinking about making a solid body guitar out of it. Any advice on redwood for a body? Redwood is a particularly beautiful timber. I absolutely love it. It sounds nice. It's very lightweight. It is a soft wood. It is soft. It does dent very easily, and it's very difficult to finish accurately and flat. Especially if you've got a wide variation in grain, you've got hard grain with large soft patches that tend to sand away, so you end up with a very wavy kind of effect. That being said, it's a lovely thing. It really is lovely, and it's one of my regrets, actually. I don't live in Canada and can't get easy access to huge amounts of flame maple, and I don't live in America where you can get access to redwood. It doesn't come around very often. That being said, I've got some here that has actually grown in the UK. It's not to the same size, but yeah, it's very pretty stuff. David Spears says, Ben, come to Vancouver Island and I will take you golfing, fishing and skiing all in the same day. Yes, this can be done. That sounds incredible. Vancouver, it's actually on my bucket list. So yeah, I'll call you out on that. I'll call you out on that. I will take you up on that. Bum 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 bada bum. Jack Evans says, hey, I have a travel acoustic which has one strap pin. The wood is quite solid, and I want to put a second strap pin at the bottom of the neck. The guitar shop said they will do it for me, but is it safe? Absolutely safe. It depends on the guitar. But how long it is. You say it's a travel guitar, so if it's got a standard sized body but a short neck or something, then that should be fine. If it's a small body and a short neck, I would actually say it's probably better to have the strap tied on a shoelace around the headstock. It doesn't look as cool. I think it looks cooler, actually, come to think of it. Anyway, Jose Vasquez has come back in and says, do Crimson Guitars ship spirit stains to Mexico? Greetings from Mexico. Ben, love your videos. Thank you very much for your support. And yes, 100% we ship the spirit-based stains to Mexico unless things have changed in the last 6 months. So yeah, But if you are in any way unsure, drop an email through to shop@crimsonguitars.com, and Abby, who is the lady that runs the shop for us, will be able to check the most recent regulations, etc. These things do change from time to time, so I'm not 100% sure. I'm merely 99.5% certain. Okay. Tannins can be added to lighter woods for ebonizing. I've gotten great results with maple. This is from things I came here to do. Can you hear the surprise in my voice? How the hell do you add tannins to... Okay, I'm intrigued. Please let me know how that happens and works. Rob Phoenix says, can I be the barman? Yeah. I mean, that's one of those jobs. I put myself in the way of temptation too many times to work in a bar anymore. SC Guitars says, make the Crimson Hotel into a Big Brother type setup and we can vote off a luthier each week. I really would like to have the Great Guitar Build Off actual TV show. I think it would be incredible to fly in or to say, okay, here, 10 people, you guys pay your own way to Crimson, and we will set up a room and we will, over a 4-week period or a 3-week period, build as many guitars as humanly possible, and people will get voted off or kick themselves out or have hissy fits and I mean, this is Big Brother. Try and sleep with each other. I don't know. It could be intensely amusing. I would watch that TV. But yeah, anyway. Leighton Matthews says that he would just be the drunk regular who lives at the end of the bar. Okay, Creville comes in and says, Ben, should I fret the neck before or after carving the neck? Neck through build, if that matters. Leveling at the end of the build? Definitely fret level at the end of the build, 100%. Should you carve the neck? Should you fret the neck before or after carving? As long as the wood is nicely dried and stable, then I always fret beforehand. It's just so much easier. If you've got a rectangular neck blank that's sitting on your workbench, it gives you something good and solid to work with, and it doesn't rock, etc. It means that the frets get seated properly. Now, there are certain tools that help otherwise. There is one that appears to have gone. We sell a fret clamp that will work on an already carved neck. Now, the only reason that you might want to carve it first is if you're worried about the neck moving too much. So I will make sure, if the neck blank is massive, I will cut away a lot of material, leave it to settle for anywhere up to a week or so, and then put the frets in. But really, it is safer to carve it first, as long as you're absolutely certain and careful about how you put the frets in. Okay, guys, come on, give me questions and give me likes. There are 250 people watching and only 100 or so likes. Come on, bring it on. And while we're about it, please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't yet. Jack Evans retracted his question and said, "Sorry, all, I don't know." It's been retracted. I can't see it. Is oak okay for a fretboard? Is oak okay? That nearly got me. Yes, you can use oak as a fretboard. It depends on... Okay, there are different types of oak. I am thinking about European oak. French oak is also really good, and you can get some really nice straight-grained sections of oak that work very, very well as a fretboard. I have never personally experienced red oak. From context, I think it's lighter and softer, so I'm not too sure on that. Okay, things I came here to do says, I boiled chips of oak to make a tannin solution, applied it first, let it dry, and then I applied the iron oxide. And that stained the maple. Wow. Okay. Metal Master says, how much would a custom-made luthier guitar cost? I'm going to assume you mean from Crimson, and I'm going to say the dreaded pair of words, it depends. It really depends. we can build anything you want, and most luthiers will say the same thing. And the sky is literally the limit. The minimum is probably £2,500 or £3,000, I suppose. But even that is assuming that it's made entirely by hand. If we start with, for example, a kit guitar and we customize it for you, a portion of the work at least is done. It utterly depends on materials, time, hardware. It's an infinitely variable thing. And how long is that guitar string anyway? Alrighty. Phil Ploman says he'll be the drummer. Guitarists can test their newly built guitars with me in a band context. I could also be the hotel nurse for safety. I mean, we need health and safety people, that's for absolutely certain. Paulie B79 says, I'm starting tool making. Wow, I've made frozen adzers so far. Are there any tools that you wish were still being made, or new tools you'd want made for luthiering? Well, funnily enough, you say frozen adzers. I've had the tool shop now for 4 years, and I have not had I have only had one fro come in, and people consistently ask us for them. So if you're in the UK, drop me an email and maybe I'll stock your froze. You'll be the first new tools that we actually sell. That being said, are there any tools that I wish were still being made, or new tools that I would want made for luthiering? Honestly, not so much, and the ones that there are things that I'm planning on putting into production myself anyway. So, for example, there's a particularly gorgeous design of protractor from the 18th century, 19th century, I suppose, that I want to make versions of because it's just beautiful and it works really well, and it's something I want to do. William Hill and Sons made some stunning thumb planes for violin makers, and I find that, for example, Ibic's thumb planes have a major design flaw and really suck as a result of that. And I know a lot of people love them, but they are not as good as they could be. So I would like to make some planes like that. With regards to blacksmith tools, or that sort of stuff like froze and draw knives, etc., we don't use that sort of stuff all that often. So yeah, I mean, I'd like to see what you could do with chisels and gouges. Really high end Damascus steel sort of chisels would be great fun. Anyhow, Michael Friesel says, Mr. Benjamin, have you ever tried or thought of using surfboard polyester finish? I didn't even know there was a specific polyester finish for surfboard, so no. We're changing the title of the show to the Crimson Hotel Show. Thank you very much, Troy. Metal Master says, okay, that's a little bit out of my league. Yeah, I think... yeah, chisels and the like. A good set of really, really nice chisels is something that every luthier needs. And same thing with carving gouges. So, yeah. Aidan Keenan says, what's the difference between high build guitar finishing oil and penetrating guitar finishing oil? Essentially the amount of solids in it. So the penetrating oil is designed to go deep into the wood, and it then solidifies the wood itself to a certain extent, and that is protecting everything, as opposed to a film finish on the top that gets really hard and protects the wood. And then if you want to try and go for a gloss or semi-gloss finish, the high build oil goes on, and that sits and builds up far more than the penetrating wood. Essentially, it halves the amount of coats that you need to put on, basically, in order to get that sort of finish. Rich Hoops sent £2 and said more female luthiers in general would be good. It's just... yes, emphatically. We have watching our channel, it's so we can see the analytics, for example, of who watches the Crimson Guitars channel. And for years, it was 98 or even 99% male. And it's actually gone down to about 94, 95% male, which is, a step in the right direction. But it is heavily male dominated. And that is incredibly annoying, really. Now, I'm sorry, I should have taken that subscribe message off the screen much earlier. The thing is that, and I know I'm generalizing massively here, most female luthiers that I've met are incredible, mind-blowingly talented, and I don't know if a girl decides to be a luthier and decides to really go at it, they tend to blow blokes out of the damn water, and I'd love to see that more. There's a group of 3 luthiers called, I think it's Jersey Girls Guitars or something like that, and their guitars are insane. And there's a lady who makes acoustic guitars in the UK, unfortunately, whose name has completely escaped me. And every single time I see her at a show, I try and give her a job. And unfortunately, she's successful and doesn't need the work and doesn't want to come and work for me. But incredible guitars and a really nice person as well. Yeah. Jonathan Oakey, hey man. Jonathan's been on a bunch of courses with us. He says, talking of female luthiers, does anybody know what happened to Susie Gardner? I used to enjoy watching her videos. I haven't got a clue. I'm going to try and get in touch with her again. There you go. I've actually brought my diary today so that I can do this. Troy says, wow, you actually do read all the comments. Props to you, Ben. I try. I really do try. Although, send through super chats, because that does guarantee it. And, yeah, helps. Can you recommend a hardener or penetrating oil that really gets deep? Well, yeah, that's what the penetrating guitar finishing oil is for. If you wanted to get even deeper, then you can dilute it. Now, I'm not sure what would be the best thing to use to dilute it, but drop an email through to shop@crimsonguitars.com and ask Sam, or even office@crimsonguitars.com, and ask Sam or maybe little Josh what would be the best thing to dilute the penetrating guitar finishing oil. Yeah. Jeremy Sellers says, thoughts on batteries in a hollow body. How would you make them accessible for changing? Where would you source components? That's a difficult question. That is a real difficult question, to be honest. It depends on the hollow body. If you've got a nice big round sound hole, then a lot of people will just attach them with good quality modern Velcro inside the sound hole, and then you just rip it off and go. I would seriously consider a USB charging battery that just lives in the guitar and is there, and you won't need to change it very much at all. I'm not going to go. I've got a drawer over there. I've got there's rechargeable 9-volt batteries that plug into a USB thing that you can buy on Amazon for not very much. And it's one of those things that you can do. K-Dog has said £5. Thanks very much, K-Dog. And he says, hi Ben, what would you advise to look for? Questions to ask them as signs of a good luthier when purchasing one's first custom guitar. I don't want to get burned. Yeah. It's so difficult. It's so... Okay. We live in the day and age of social media. You have to watch their social media. We live in the day and age of Trustpilot and Google reviews, etc. Speaking of which, if any of you are customers of Crimson, or I know many of you are, please go and leave a Google review for Crimson about the product that you bought or the service that you got, or even hell, the damn podcast. That sort of stuff, it's not something that we ask for very often, but it really, really seriously does help. And I've been told by many people that I need to ask you guys more. So that's the thing. Check out the reviews. Have a look at people who have bought from them in the past. Even ask the luthier and say, hey, could you please put me in touch, if it's okay with the person, with one or two of your former customers, and see what they say. If they don't want to share that detail with you, then there's a possibility that there's something to hide. Now, the problem is there are people who are fantastic luthiers and they're working on their own and they get really busy, and you are going to have to wait 2 years for a guitar, and that's an issue. I don't want to wait 2 years for anything. Hell no. But if the instrument is that good, then that there's that long of a waiting list, and going in that that's a waiting list, then that's a decision that you can make. So yeah, my opinion really is it's the prosaic, boring, standard ones. Check out their social media and look really closely at what they do. Look at the photos that are not being put out. If you see a guitar from, and they've put 20 photos of this guitar and they're all from 2 or 3 angles, but you don't see that side, maybe there's something to hide. I know, because I'm guilty of doing the same thing, or have been guilty at least of doing the same thing. There's a lot that can be hidden these days. Not these days. When you're taking photographs. Oh, that's the great angle. How much are the images being touched up in Photoshop, for example? But the end result really is, what do other customers think? What do other people on the internet say about that company? And that's it. It's so difficult to answer. Okay. Back to easy questions. Crevel says, out of frustration, I've bought a Stanley number 62, and because it has some minor flaws but still works, I spent €120 more and bought a Veritas number 62, which now is being shipped. It should make me happy. Oh my gosh. Well, ship me the Stanley one and I'll buy it off you. I don't know. I've never had a Stanley 62 actually. Yeah, there we go. The Veritas is fantastic. If you can get the number 62 by Quangshang, that is also an incredible tool at a lot less of a price, although still more than most vintage planes would be. Lunacy Phoenix says, more luthiers in general, male or female, who cares? The more luthiers, the better. That's how I feel. I mean, we have started the Great Guitar Build-Off in order to promote guitar building in general. Now, I do think that there is room here for some positive discrimination in to get girls building. To get girls in workshops for too bloody long. It was, okay, you go do sewing and cooking and be a nice little wifey for the husband who's going to go and do some work in the factory or whatever. And that's, yeah, for Christ's sake, that's just not the way it should be right now. And unfortunately, a lot of girls still don't think that they can get into workshops and making things. We're really, they really should. So anyway, it's a weird one. Barrett Ramgurdas sent $5 and says, just a $5 to enjoy the show. P.S. Don't forget, good, cheap, and soon. You often only get to pick 2. You are correct. You can have good and cheap. No. But yes, there we go. Good and cheap, but it takes a hell of a long time. Good, and soon, but it's not going to be cheap, or cheap and soon, it ain't going to be good. I absolutely agree with you. But then again, unfortunately, there are also people who take the piss, and yeah, it's not an easy one. David Lang, how's it going, David? He sent £5 and said, just saying thanks for the content. Another one, thank you very much. I've always wanted to build stuff, but finances and space really don't allow it. It's lovely to live vicariously. Yes, I am fully aware of how lucky I am to get to do what I do and to share it. And one day, I hope that both space and finances allow you to have a giant workshop and just build and make and create, because it really is just the best thing in the world for me. But thank you very much for your support. Okay. The questions all moved. Glenn Whitlock, how's it going, Glenn? It says, nice idea about the hotel, but beware, I worked for a language school for international students. The boss bought a small 10-room hotel, but the costs of running it made it a real headache. Yes, that is the thing. So having cleaners come through, because hey, who wants a dirty hotel, or employing cleaners, etc. It has to be something that makes a profit, obviously. And yeah, that being said, we in normal years have enough students coming through that, and most people would want to live in the hotel while they're there because it would be the coolest place in the world. I'd even considered having, for example, you have the lessons at Crimson during the day, and then you go back, and after dinner there's a guest speaker talking about frets or fretting or hand tools, or whatever. We could make it a continuation of the school. It just could be so damn cool, and I'm going to do it. Josh Paul says, string through ferrules, is placement important? If so, where is the best placement? Directly perpendicular to the bridge, and the bridge itself will dictate where that is, so you have to go straight down. I have spent many hours trying to figure out a way to fan at an angle so the ferrules are actually closer to the back of the guitar to give you some extra string length, just because that would be freaky. But yeah, it involves jigs and templates and stroke or 5-axis CNC machines in order to get it actually right. But yeah, there we go. Bedroom Programmer says, on the topic of batteries, I've gone over to using regular 18650 lithium-ion batteries with a USB charger and adjustable voltage output. Darn cheap, and can put out more than 9 volts. Okay. K-Dog says, thanks Ben, much appreciated. It's a pleasure. Guitar Addicts Workshop says, I love my Veritas planes. Veritas are a Canadian company, very well made, modern looking planes. I often said that I would like to keep my standard angle planes being vintage tools, or maybe UK made Cliftons. My low angles would be Veritas, and my specialty things would be Lee Nielsen, etc. For example, their 410, I think it's ones with the angled blades, the little block planes and fences and all that sort of stuff. But I mean, frankly, I'd like to have one of everything by every single company ever. Yeah. Rage Quit says, Stanley62 is proof that God loves us. I'm not going to argue. Jonathan Oakey says, surely the hotel would have to be called Crow's Nest. Potentially. Okay. Paulie B79 says, I've been told that the sole near the mouth cracks easily as it's thin and old steel. The Veritas blade will be far thicker, less chatter, and more enjoyable to use. Yes, this is again talking about low angle planes. So yeah, I've got the Lee Nielsen number 62 here, and that is one of my favorite planes of all time. It really is. But it says, how do you handle inlays that cover multiple frets around the fret wire? I'm currently working on a large vine inlay. Okay, so imagine that this is the space covered by the fret. You've got a large area that you can remove of the inlay in order to avoid the tang cracking your inlay. Essentially, I would say measure the tang of your fret with calipers and then make sure that you have, with the Dremel, routed away the enough of the inlay so that it doesn't crack when you push the tangs through it. You also are going to have to glue the frets in, although that's something I suggest you do anyway, in order to make sure, depending on how much material you've taken. Okay, Lunacy Phoenix says, could you do a build like McPherson does with a thick carbon fiber chunk in the neck? I'm very interested in building an Ibanez Gem thin carbon fiber reinforced neck guitar. I mean, yes, absolutely. There's no secrets to how it's done. In fact, McPherson have, in one or two of their factory tours, workshop tours, I suppose, they show you very clearly how they do it and what they do, and there's extra bits and pieces in there that there's no reason why you can't do it. And carbon fiber is old tech now. You can buy pre-preg, you can buy pre-cooked carbon fiber in all sorts of profiles for all sorts of different mediums, and it's absolutely available, and you should give it a go. I like truss rods, and I personally think that a guitar without a truss rod is a travesty. Yeah, I think it's a travesty. I think that you need to have some adjustment. Me as a player, I prefer a guitar with more relief in the neck and a higher action, period. That's what I do. Many guitarists want a neck that's perfectly flat and with an ultra low action, and that is their right, and fine. If you don't have a truss rod, your guitar is being built for a smaller subset of guitarists, and I don't think that's right. Leighton Matthews has come in and said, bacon! Ben, what are your thoughts on fanning nut slots to mitigate the tuning issues on Les Paul style guitars? Compensated nut. Ernie Ball, I think it has to be Ernie Ball. Ernie Ball, there you go. Ernie Ball do it, or did it at least, and it does make a difference. I think that, scientifically it works and it does make a difference, and I've done it actually quite a few times myself, and it makes a guitar sound better, and if not better, just slightly different and a little bit more in tune. So bring it on. Gus Stroneman just said bacon, bacon, bacon. Okay. Bedroom programmer says, okay, now I can put all my attention here undivided. Starship is not going to fly today. Okay. Everybody's talking about bacon. This is so distracting. Bedroom programmer says, Ben, I have a slab of Andy Roba, 100-year-old underwater wood from Panama Canal. Would you recommend trying to make a neck out of it, or should I use it for something else? Yes, you should use it for flirting with a certain UK-based luthier / guitar builder. Or you could just, make a really cool guitar neck out of it and send me a few photos. I have never used sinker wood, and I really want to one day. So, you've just reminded me that I need to actually make an effort to find some. That being said, obviously I did build a bog oak guitar. I suppose that's sinker wood, so I just lied to you. Forgive me. Alrighty, questions. Bring them on, peoples. What size of saw file would you recommend to sharpen Crimson's guitar fret saw? Now that is a question I've never been asked. A really fine one. They are. I should know off the top of my head. It's a fairly tight and yeah, a very fine, small. So 1/8 of an inch or thereabouts should do you quite nicely. Sirdar Carvin says, Ben, is there any alternative for fret end cutters? They are really expensive here, and side cutters bends the ends of the fret when I cut. Any proper method? Okay, so Crimson's fret end cutters. Mine are dusty. I really need to dust my workshop. These are an alternative. You can, because they've been ground perfectly flat on the face and are sharp but also substantial, you can cut at 2 angles to cut the fret ends. It is fret end cutters are expensive wherever you go, basically, but yeah, that is an option. Do not use a bench grinder or a Dremel grinding wheel or something like that. One, you often go too far. Two, the softness of many frets, the alloy gunks up the wheel and it just doesn't work. If you are careful, you can use files. So have your fret in a vise, or even better yet, 2 pieces of wood with a couple of slots cut in them for the body of the fret, with the fret tang sitting out of one end. That then goes in the vise, so you're not damaging the sides of the fret, and then you can use a file to very, very carefully file away the excess. Yeah, that's your option, really. Yeah, alrighty. Okay, we've got a super chat here from Barrett Ramgerdes, whose name I don't recognise. So welcome to the live chat. Ivana has the math for the compensated nut. Good info, and 90% of my guitars have them. That was the name I was looking for. Yeah, Ivana, check it all out. Thanks very much for that. SC Guitar says the food and hotel live stream. There we go. Hold on. K-Dog says, Ben, if you want to come and visit, if I want to come and visit you at Crimson, is that possible now the COVID rules are more relaxed in England? Yes, they are. I am very rarely, well, no, not very rarely there. I am personally not there all of the time, although I am actually about to be building that out sometime over the next 2 or 3 months. I am there a couple of times of the week. If you particularly wanted to meet me in person, you would have to make an appointment, and they would figure out when I'm going to be there and tell you, and we would sort of liaise. I'm more than happy to give people tours. I don't have infinite amounts of time, but yeah, I'm well up for that sort of thing. Now, at the moment, we are all still wearing masks, and we are insisting that students and staff who are working with students have had a recent lateral flow test to make sure that they do not have COVID. So I think that it's still a little bit too soon, but we are getting back to normal, slowly but surely. So the school is open. We have got 4 or 5 students in there at the moment, and it's ramping back up. It really is. Okay. Bedroom Program says, I can send you a piece. I have more than enough. I will take you up on that. Seriously, drop us an email and we will talk. I'll repay the favor with t-shirts or fret leveling files or something. Rab Knox. Ben, what grit stones or honing plates are best to get to sharpen chisels, etc.? 800 grit and 1200 grit, and often you can buy a Japanese waterstone with one on either side. I would suggest get that combination stone and then another 800 grit stone, and essentially every time you use it, you rub them together, whichever face you've used, and that keeps the stones that you're actually using flat. And then you need a king stone or a 3000 grit or something like that to get a mirror shine, and then a leather strop will do the job nicely. Alrighty. Guitar Addicts Workshop says, I'm going to try an epoxy pour fill for the first time. Pour fill for the first time. Any tips? Have fire to hand, and yeah, make sure it's thin enough to actually fill the pores, which is something I've done before and it didn't actually do anything. Again, I don't use epoxy for, well, I saw just now somebody ask about what Ken Parker does with epoxy and finishing and pour filling and all that jazz. I haven't watched that part of the video. I think there are alternatives to that, basically. Whoa, hold on, I saw the word spoke shape somewhere. Hi Ben, what is that gorgeous curved spoke shape for, and who makes it? This one. It is gorgeous. I actually took a photograph of it yesterday just for fun. This is, funnily enough, by Clifton. There we go. And it is for carving away the seats in chairs, etc. And one day I'm going to use it to do a carved top guitar, basically. It came into my shop, and I just love it. I also now can't figure out where it goes. There we go. Stay. Now, oh, Paulie B already answered. Spoke shape is a Clifton. Clifton do some really good stuff. Krewell says, I've looked for used tools on eBay, but I couldn't find any quality planes. The world is crazy at the moment. Planes. Okay, seriously, if any of you are looking for something in particular, drop shop@vintagetoolshop.com and email, say, hey, I'm looking for a low angle block plane or a number 7 or whatever it happens to be. Say I watched Ben's live stream. He said to get in touch with Safi and put your name down. She will put together a list of people and a list of things, and we could potentially give you first dibs. For example, this weekend I'm actually going, and I'm hopefully going to be buying a large collection of planes. So that, or just keep an eye on vintagetoolshop.com. We add an average of 50 tools every single working day. Monday through Friday, 50 to 80 new tools go live. And it's just a case of being there and snapping them up as they come through. But yeah, it's amazing. The supply, the demand has gone through the roof, basically. And unfortunately, my supply is not is not what it should be. Siddhar Carvin says, another question, if all hardwares are unchangeable and tone wood is not a real thing, as you said, ish, and the finishes are pretty standardized in factories, what makes a guitar a good one for you? Okay, there is still variation. So for example, in the hardware, there is good and there is great hardware. Finishing, PRS are fantastic at incredibly pretty but also very, very thin finishes, and the quality of their finish and our finish, we do almost as good, takes it to that next level. The quality and care and attention to detail that is paid to the frets and the making of the nut and the setup of the guitar are 100% the most important thing in how a guitar plays and feels and sounds. There are good and then there are great pickups, and what is a great pickup on one guitar might be only a good pickup on another, depending on the construction and the materials chosen. Wood does have an effect on the sound. I've never said that it doesn't. I've always said, though, that it is just a small part of the end recipe. The sustain of an instrument is down to the wood and the construction of the instrument, and to an extent the hardware, etc. And sustain is part of the tone. But the timbre, here we go, the timbre of the instrument, that is more down to the pickups and the electronics and the amp and all of that jazz. There we go. A few years ago, this is Paul 23 Fits, you serviced Kelly Jones's SG. That was scary. Do you have many famous customers, and does it give you a great feeling to know that these people are trusting you with their pride and joy? No. Not really. So we are in the sticks, and basically we're in Dorset, in Dorchester. We are 2 or 3 hours away from London, 2 or 3 hours away from Birmingham. We're an hour and a bit away from Bristol, etc. And in all of the places where there are lots of guitarists gigging a lot, there are a lot of luthiers and repair people as well doing that stuff. So as much as I would like to say, yeah, absolutely, so and so and so and so and all that jazz, it really isn't the case. And I think and a lot of that is down to where we are, and also the fact that historically we don't actually do that many repairs. Now, part of the expansion of Crimson is that we are actually going to be doing a lot more repairs, but it's not it just has never been the prime focus of what we do. And I'm known for guitar building and for teaching and for tools. Repairs are, off to the side. But when I do have anybody trust me to build their guitar or repair their guitar, I know that I'm being trusted with something very, very important, and potentially something that person will have for the rest of their lives. And that does make me feel both privileged and, well, pride is the right word, basically. So, yeah, proud. What are some what are some alternative pour fillers that you recommend then? I've only used Timbermate so far. I've never used Timbermate. It depends on the finish that you're doing in the end. Underneath an oil finish, I will actually use the oil itself, and I apply the oil with 1200 or 1500 grit wet and dry paper, and that makes a slurry. As you're sanding it on, that makes a slurry of the dust, and that fills the pores as you go. So that's what I would do there. Shellac works very well in a similar sort of way, and shellac goes with anything. So yeah, you can use shellac and then sand it down, and then use another layer of shellac and sand it down. You could also mix shellac with pumice, I think pumice stone, rotten stone, one of those things. Google it, shellac grain filler, and you'll find what the recipe is. Okay. Sean Durkin says, I attempted to flood a piece of crabapple wood with epoxy to make a body, and some epoxy failed to cure, leaving it a sticky mess. Now, whenever heat hits the body, epoxy leaks out of the cracks and pores. Ow. Ow, 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 ow. Yeah, okay. That sucks. I'm sorry that happened to you. Travisher. Robin Fawcett says that this is called a Travisher. Not quite, but there is a tool called Travisher that does the same thing, that looks Well, no, maybe. Hold on. Come on. Oh, here it is. No, I'm failing utterly. Here we go. So that's a curved sole spoke shave. This is a trebuchet, which... Do you know what? I'm not going to argue. They're basically the same thing. Anyway, there we go. For the same job. Tahoe Mike says, I'm wondering about using reclaimed hardwood flooring as fretboard material. What dimensions would I want to look for to make a useful blank? I mean, fretboards are 600, I think, by 7 or 8 millimeters by about 55 millimeters at the widest point. That there is your dimension. I've got no issue with reusing woods like that for fretboards. In fact, I heartily encourage it. There is something you can do if you watched the Cyberpunk 2077 build. I made a fretboard out of multiple pieces of ebony offcuts, and that could work very well for you as well. SC Guitar says, I am still to buy my first hand plane, don't kill me. Dude, I'm going to be WhatsApping him in a little bit about getting a plane in his hands. Stephen. Bart says, I bought cheap small chisels once. I knew they'd be bad, but when they arrived, I was actually horrified that people buy and readily use those. There's a lot of people that buy them and then never use them because they're that horrible. Yeah. A well-sharpened and set-up plane is 90% of the struggle. Sharp is 90% of that. Quality planes make that easy. That's from Paulie B79. Crikey, people, I am forgetting how to talk, and we are nearing the 2-hour mark, which is far too long. If you have any questions, make sure to answer them here. Where are we? Sawdust. Ben Timon says, can you tell us more about the book? What's it about and when's it available? I have three in mind. The main book is guitar building, and it is literally just a how to build a guitar. But where I'm doing it differently is I am writing and have written what I would do, and then I'm going back based on questions in the comments, in the live stream, in the live chat, in the comments on YouTube, via Instagram, etc. I'm looking at all of the questions that I'm asked over a couple of year period, and then applying them to the book and answering them in the book. Because if somebody's gone to the trouble of asking me a question in a comment, then it's obviously something that needs to be answered. And it's also, I find that a lot of times people who write these books on whatever they're doing, they already know what they're doing, and they don't necessarily remember what it felt like to be a beginner. And that's what I'm trying to write here. I also would love to write a book called So You Want to Be a Professional Guitar Builder Then? ? Which would be more sort of funny stories and life lessons and business lessons, and here's marketing, here's how I've done what I've done. I just think that could be quite funny and interesting, and more long form essay writing than here's a photograph of a process and here's why I'm doing what I'm doing. And then I also very much want to do a couple of sort of photo books kind of thing with stuff, and we'll see how it goes. Paul23 Fitz has just sent £5 and said, no question, just thanks. And thank you very, very much. And for the questions as well. Hold on. Let me see. Okay, Dean Spencer sent £5 and said, what do you reckon about Ken Parker's use of epoxy as a wipe-on grain filler / sealer? I was thinking on trying it on my current build. I haven't got to that part of the video, and the thing is, Ken Parker is a fantastic luthier. I don't necessarily agree with some of the things he does, but the guitars look amazing and they sound incredible, and his ideas are amazing. So I think he goes about it, some of the things that he does, he goes about it the long way. But then again, this is me talking, and that's what I do a lot. Here's a game. This is from Stephen. He says, here's a game. Every time Ben says, it depends, you take a shot of espresso. First person to have a caffeine overdose wins. Yeah. Crevel says, I bought a €30 plane from Amazon. It sucks. It is uncomfortable. It is not flat. It can't be sharpened properly. Screws are sloppy or can't be adjusted at all. Sideways movement is based on luck. And for the same 30, well, I suppose maybe €60 now, you can get a vintage Stanley that, while it might not have the best steel and the plain blade might be a little thin, is still 100 times better. Knight's Dew says, what would you recommend for gloss finish on a stained flame maple top that you could do in your backyard? Okay, watch my current build, which is Shred. And you see the gloss there? That's actually still in progress. I'm literally, just before this, I was hand buffing that with a microfiber rag. Seriously, that is not a bad gloss. I'm just hanging the back up off camera. It's not a bad gloss, and that is the Crimson Guitars wipe on. Well, I've got too many bottles here of all sorts of stuff. Here we go. It's the water-based wipe on guitar finishing lacquer, and it's relatively non-toxic, and that's the result, and that's what I would suggest, 100%. And in the next episode, which should be tomorrow, in the next episode, which will be Wednesday, you should see that guitar coming together in its entirety. I.e., we're finishing the series. Ben, do you have any advice for finding the right location of the strap button? It is an Explorer style guitar. Before you add finish, I would use gaffer tape or duct tape to tape the strap in place, and then you can see where the balance point is. If not, just try and hold it. And if it works, it works. So yeah, I don't have any tricks other than that, I'm afraid. Frugal Fixer Spike says, how would you finish a black walnut and ambrosia maple body? Personally, I love an oil finish. I love a good oil finish, especially with the ambrosia. It just makes it a bit more golden, and walnut, yeah, that would work. Sir Carvin come in with another one, says, what do you think of pyrography fretboard inlays? Would it work? I have seen it done before. It tends to feel a little cheap to my mind, and I don't know why I feel that. I think because the last time I saw it, or most of the times I've seen it, actually has been on cigar box guitars, which are literally designed to be cheap and rough and ready. There is also, you run the risk of feeling it. And so, for example, if you're doing lovely sweeping bends, etc., and you've got low frets and big fat fingers like I do, then you will feel the texture of that underneath, and it could put you off, or at least put the player off. So that's a thing. Rob Phoenix has come in with £5. Thanks very much, Rob. And he says, I'm trying to watch the stream and fit an eBay neck to a Squire Strat. Multitasking is not advised. Yeah. I really struggle. You see me, I have always got my isotunes in. I am always listening to podcasts and stroke or music. So if the podcast gets, or audiobook at least, depending on the day, gets too distracting, I'll put music on. And then when I really need to concentrate, everything goes off. And yeah. I'm sorry that we're too distracting. Now, Nick Guitar says Parker basically uses one coat of epoxy, wiping it off pretty quickly, and then he puts on 2 coats of true oil. Well, I really need to sit down and watch the rest of those videos. I really do. If it works, it works. His guitars... I have Googled second-hand Ken Parker guitars, and oftentimes they look a lot older than they are. So I wish he used French polish and stroke or sort of a PRS style 2K finish. I really do. I think that of an instrument of that quality, you should have a really, really, really good finish, and that doesn't sound to me like a good finish. It sounds passable. It sounds rustic. It sounds handmade, and those guitars look like they should be more than that. But then again, I don't know. Yeah. Anyhow, look, guys, I am really flagging at this point. Yeah, I really am. 88 Waco or Wacko says, look up how shellac is made. I really have never. I know that there's lots and lots and lots of beetles involved, and I actually feel a little bit bad about that. Okay, Paulie B79 says a number 6 will suit well enough. I'm assuming this is for jointing, etc. I'm coming to the conclusion swiftly that 7s and 8s are absolute overkill for guitar building, and a number 6 or even a number 5 should be enough to joint a guitar body or a guitar top, etc. I'm going to run some tests, but I think a number 6 is, in fact, I'm certain that number 6 is absolutely all that you need. Okay. Creeville says, that gloss on shred just changed my opinion of wipe on poly. Maybe I should get some, but for now I stick to the high build finishing oil. I have had the same opinion, and when we were developing this and I saw the first test, I was like, woohoo, okay, here we go. Now it is a little bit bland. It doesn't colour the grain in the same way that oil does, and I love the look of that sort of golden sheen that you get. I'm going to be running some more tests, but yeah, in the final episode of Shred you will see this come together, and I'm going to throw in a few, yeah, I'm seriously tempted to throw in a few surprises, so we'll see. Final question then, unless anybody's got any super chats that want to pick me to the post, is from Olaf Hartog. He says, what do you sharpen? Oh, I've lost the question. Crikey. They jump out of my screen and I can't see them. It's about sharpening a gouge, basically, a round chisel. Is shellac bug poop? Crikey. Okay. Okay. I've done some videos. Search Crimson Guitars sharpening a gouge, and you'll find a whole video on the series. essentially, there's a couple of tricks that work very well. Using the blunt gouge to go into to carve its shape into some wood, and then using a polishing compound to do that. Before you get to that stage, you have to use stones, etc., and you have to use a stone or a round dowel with sandpaper on it on the inside, because sharpening is both faces need to be sharpened. There is a question here on, and again that has also gone. So what compound do I use? Oh, here we go. David Spears says, "Hey Ben, I'm not sure if you've answered this. What compound would you use to buff the wipe-on lacquer from Crimson with a buffing wheel?" I have been using by hand this multi-use guitar polish, which is absolutely fantastic stuff. Now, there we go, Menzerna make the absolute best buffing soap, the best quality buffing compound in the entire world, and we use their P175 super finish, and then the yellow one, which is over that side, which is the sort of finish on almost all of our guitars. It is superb. That's just good stuff. Cheap buffing compounds they all have abrasives in them, and the quality control of the factory making them is so important, and these Menzerna ones are just mind-blowingly good. So that's what we do. Okay. Derek Colton. Weak neck. Ben, I have a 12-string I've fought with for years. What is the best solution? Replace a few frets with larger tangs, stiffening rods through back, and fill with wood grain, epoxy, or pull fretboard? Woo. If you're talking major relief and you just can't get rid of it, then there is almost not very much that you can do. If taking out some frets and putting in frets with bigger tangs, or taking out frets, turning the frets upside up, I can't believe I did that. Turning the frets upside down and then banging the tang down so it spreads out and mushrooms out, and then putting the frets back in, that would work very well. But yeah, I mean, taking the fretboard off, I would not put carbon fiber stiffening rods from the back. That's taking far too much material away, and the epoxy is less structural than the grain of the wood. So if you epoxy mixed with dust is not that structural, and you'll end up with a neck that's weaker in the end. So take the fretboard off, and then carbon fiber stiffening rods clamped down to a flat surface, and then a new fretboard on top should work. Tips or ideas for a neck finish between oil and gloss? Well, yeah, the aforementioned wipe-on guitar lacquer would work very well. Paul Richards says, "Hi Ben, I was at Crimson on the 12th for a 5-day. I made a beautiful burl top thin line telly under the tutelage of Sean, Dan and Tom. They are fantastic guys at the top of their game. Look after them." I am so happy with the team that we've got at the moment. I'm so happy that you're happy. Please go and leave a review. Yeah, I think the whole... we missed having students in, and having you and other people in now it's been a hard year, and it's so good that everything is being opened up again, and it's all good. It's all good. Thank you very much for your support and for coming in, and when you want to come back, you get a discount. Returning students discount for sure. Okay, now I'm broken. I'm done. Okay, Barter sent a €2 thing and said, "Hey Ben, I've posted a follow-up on the inlays earlier. There is no way I'm going to be able to find your question unless you copy and paste the question and put it below. I will wait a couple of minutes, but we are 100% at the end of this. I am running out of energy. Okay. I'm going to be back. I'm going to be back at 9 p.m. on Sunday evening. And, oh, here we go. Here's the question. So in the question of the frets, where the wood has sadly chipped all the way to the fret slot when carving the inlay holes, what would your advice or solution be? This is from Bart. So yeah, this is a perfect example. Unless there's a super chat, there's no guarantee that I'm actually going to see the question. They zip by on my screen quite fast. So yeah, there we go. So the wood is chipped away all the way to the fret slot when carving the inlay holes. At this point, it is redesign the inlay, make the inlay slightly bigger, or find a piece of wood, an offcut from the fretboard, etc., that matches, make sure that the grain matches. And I mean, for example, with ebony, it's fairly easy to hide repairs like that. But yeah, it's a case of inlaying in some natural wood to fix the issue. Dust and glue has its place, but it's always obvious that that's what's happened, or almost always obvious. So yeah, I think that is the way to do it. Creville says, guys, we need to get him going. Come on, we can do it. We can do it. But no, it's all good. Now, I will say that Friday next week, is actually my birthday. Hell, it's my 40th birthday for that matter. I have yet to decide if I am actually going to do a live stream at all, but if I do, it will be earlier in the day, because quite frankly, I would rather, and I'm sorry for this, but I would rather spend my birthday evening with my wife and kids than with you fine individuals. I'm sorry for that. So next week, if there is going to be a live stream, it will be at, say, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, rather than the usual 5:30. And yeah, I'm sorry if this messes with your schedules, but it is what it is. Anyway, Rab Knox says, have a night off, Ben. I'm seriously considering it. But look, this has been Luthiers Question Time. I really appreciate the fact that you guys have watched it and are here to ask me questions, etc. I am going to go and have some dinner. You guys go make some sawdust, have some fun, have a coffee or a whiskey, depending on what time of day it is, and yeah, keep it real. There is going to be an episode of Shred going live tomorrow, and Wednesday should be the last episode of Shred, and I'm hoping to start the Great Guitar build off after that, because, well, I'm very much looking forward to it.